Alright, you clicked the video, you know why we're here. Today, I want to steel man the Forsworn from Skyrim. If you're looking for a balanced video that explores both perspectives, this probably isn't the video for you. Today, we're going to start with the idea that Madanach is the good guy, and that the Forsworn are in the right, and work our way backwards. Next week, I'll be doing the opposite. So let's get started with the 9 reasons the Forsworn should rule the Reach. Reason number 1. They were here first, man. Alright, we have to go back.
What we do here is go back.
Not like that. But we do have to go back literally 3,732 years ago. That's when the first reachmen realized Markarth was just laying there.
This was our land. We were here first. Then the Nords came and put chains on us, forbid us from worshipping our gods. Some of us refused to bow. We knew the old ways would lead us back to having a kingdom of our own. That is who we are, the Forsworn.
Since the dwemer had just zerosummed or disappeared or whatever happened to him. Now, unlike real history where things get really complicated on who took what from who and who else was there first, this really was a case of people just wandering into somewhere and saying, wow, I'm the first one to find this place. Sweet. Since the dwarves were gone, they were right, and they built a happy little country for 330 years. Unfortunately, that's when the Allesian Empire showed up and made them all slaves, and fractured them into 10 different clans. So, in other words, pretty much all the arguments you could make for the stormcloaks, which there are some good ones, you could also make about these guys too. They were forcefully dominated by an empire, bringing them under control for no real reason. The only problem is, they then spent the next 2,423 years under that empire's rule. I think this can be hard to imagine in reality. This isn't like if the Native Americans brought concerns about being conquered by the US when it was founded. It's more like if Greeks today started complaining about being conquered by the Roman Empire 2,150 years ago. I mean, it just sounds kind of silly, doesn't it? Like, imagine if a Greek person barged into an Italian seat of government and demanded their land back from the Roman Empire, which of course doesn't exist anymore. In this case, the argument does hold some water because the empire in Skyrim still does exist, even though it's technically a different empire, and because the reachmen established that they could take it over again. So I would say this is pretty strong reasoning, especially since at that point, 2,423 years after the Empire conquered them, the reachmen basically conquered the Empire themselves and controlled it for like 30 years, then remained independent in the Reach for another 80 years after that. So, I mean, there's a long established timeline here for the reachmen being their own culturally distinct people and fighting for their own independence across multiple eras. What we see in Skyrim is 3,750 years since the Reach was originally founded, 3,420 years since it was captured by the Empire the first time, 997 years since the Reachmen conquered and controlled the imperial capital, and 678 years since they were reconquered by the Septim Empire. All of that is to say they have a long history, a shared past, and culture, and have every right to be free if they can declare their own independence. The Reach belongs to the Forsworn, so as long as they can retake it and maintain their borders, which you'll see in the next few reasons they probably can, well, then they deserve to. But let's stick to the moral justifications, because reason number 1 is nothing on reason number 2. The Nords use them as slaves. Maybe you know this, or maybe you don't, but the United States Empire and the Septim Empire have something in common. Both outlawed slavery. Yeah, yup. And they share another similarity. They both allow slavery as long as it's only used in prisons for some reason. Yup. Oh, thank you. See, some of the people who get arrested in Markarth and the United States will go to prison and can then be forced to perform brute labor where the prison keeps all of the profits and the prisoners don't get paid.
If someone joins the Forsworn, we haul him to the mines. Every prisoner in the Reach is just another worker for our family.
This seems fine on the surface, right? I mean, if you sell skooma to kids, maybe you deserve to mine silver for a few years, right? Well, the problem with this kind of setup is once the prison becomes profitable, the investors and the owners have an incentive to keep profits steady, and that means the prison had better stay full.
Now, if you'll excuse me, I have to figure out how we're going to fill our recently emptied mine.
And, well, there's the rub. This is how you get corrupt cities and corrupt prison systems, people. And Markarth is a prime example. You, the player, the Dragonborn, no less, will get arrested in Markarth for the crime of asking too many questions.
You had to just go and cause trouble. Now we have to pin all these recent murders on you. Silence witnesses. Work, work, work.
Which already kind of seems like it shouldn't be a crime, but of course you'll then find yourself in a prison full of, you guessed it, Skyrim's minorities, the Forsworn. I mean, think about it. If Sidna Mine is not overly full of Forsworn, why do Markarth guards over-police reachmen neighborhoods? Have you ever thought about that, you racist pig? No, but for real, all the prisoners here are Forsworn, except I think one. We kind of run into a chicken and the egg thing here. Are the Forsworn violent because they get thrown into prison by Silverbloods, or do the Silverbloods throw them into prison because they're violent? It would probably be beyond the scope of this video to find where it all began, but what we do know is that most of these guys are lifetime prisoners, and the Silverbloods use them as free labor to make themselves rich.
I'm a Forsworn. One of our raids went bad and I got captured. Would have been fine dying for the Reach with my kinsmen, but the Silverbloods want their ore mines, so they threw me in here. Year 7, I think. Surprised I haven't cut my own throat out by now, but something keeps me going.
All while the guards play along to get a paycheck. And speaking of corrupt guards, that brings us to reason number 3. Markarth is the most corrupt city in all of Skyrim. Quick question. What's more corrupt than a Jarl who takes bribes from bandits who prey on their own citizens?
There's a group of bandits in my hold that I may have had a few discreet dealings with. The cut they were giving me was good at first, but now it's time to clean things up.
What's more corrupt than a non-Jarl ruling the city through backroom deals?
Of course. Nothing gets done without my approval in this city. I have the Jarl's ear and the guards in my pocket.
What's more corrupt than a non-Jarl ruling the city using connections to a group that literally steals stuff for the glory of a deranged god?
Anyone makes trouble for me and I pay a visit to the Thieves Guild.
Well, what if I told you that there was a non-Jarl ruling the city through a series of backroom deals and connections to a bunch of terrorists who kill people for the glory of their deranged god?
You want to know what the Forsworn really are? They're my puppets. I have their king rotting in Sidna Mine. He was supposed to keep them under control.
And the owner of that entire city uses bribes to control all of the guards.
We have nice arrangement in this city, and we're not letting you get in the way. You have a problem with that? Take it up with Madanach. I'm sure the King in Rags and his Forsworn would love to meet you.
How about that? Look, if you think that Riften is more corrupt than Markarth, whatever. I mean, it's sixes, right? But for me, the city in green is literally the worst city ever written by Bethesda, and I love it. That said, the point here is that for the average citizen, life is probably worse in Markarth than it is in, say, Windhelm. Or, hell, even worse than it is in Winterhold. And that one has winter in the name. What evidence do we have that Markarth is so corrupt? Well, I'm glad you asked. Well, there's a slum class of people that live in a literal crawl space, so they can work at the smelter for almost no pay.
It's where you go when you can't afford a room anywhere else. About the time they opened the mines, someone got the idea to throw beds in here. Laborers, the sick, the lame, we're all here.
Imagine how much worse it is for the indigenous people that don't even get to do that. The native reachmen are forced into prison where they are forced to work until they die.
Do you remember the sun? Because you'll forget.
On top of that, the guards, the Jarl, and everyone else looks the other way because the Silverblood family who owns all of this makes so much money that they can keep everybody happy by just letting silver flow. Whenever the Empire sends an investigator to dig into all the illegal stuff going on here, the Silverbloods pay to have a Forsworn murder them.
Was it that obvious? scam. I must be losing my touch. I'm one of General Tullius's agents. I was sent to investigate the Treasury House and the Silverblood family.
The Imperial agent. That's right, I knew. How many dogs is the Empire going to send after me?
The Reach belongs to the Forsworn!
Before they can find anything out or report anything. Honestly, it would be doing everyone a favor to take the Nords out of Markarth. And what better way to do that than to empower the Forsworn, the very natives who are in prison? That way, you free the prisoners and use them to kill the corruption itself. It's killing two birds with one stone. Because at my house, there are too many birds and not enough stones. And speaking of too many birds, we have reason number 4. The Forsworn can beat their enemies pretty easily. There are 23 Forsworn camps around the Reach. That's before you account for the fact that they control many of the towns and mills and mines that are supposed to operate for Markarth Hold. That's a lot of reachmen, okay? These guys are probably the hardest general enemies in the game because of their stupid wooden weapons that somehow melt my face. They use their magic, and their stuff's worthless, so there's no profitable way to kill them. They're all juggernauts, and they don't even have anything worth taking off of them. Now, just to give one example of how hard these guys are, when Madanach escapes Sidna Mine, there's what, like 7 of them? And Thonar shows up with an equal number of guards. And these Forsworn, who have been in a prison and have not seen the light of day for 25 years, just rip right through these guards. And then they go on to kill any guards and any townsfolk who have the misfortune of crossing their path on their way out. 7 people take out the entire capital with sticks. So, based on that, if there were 10 reachmen at each camp in the hold, that would make no less than 230 Forsworn out there. Not to mention the Briarhearts and the Hagravens that lead each one of these camps. Now, if 7 decrepit, emaciated Forsworn can take out all the guards in the city, imagine what 200 of them could do. Every one of them seems to be some level of magic user, so they could just fight and heal themselves all the way to the throne. Hell, why stop there? They could take over all of Skyrim with those numbers. Maybe they could repeat their history and take over the Empire itself. Why not? I mean, the argument is either the Reach deserves Markarth because they were there first, or they deserve to be part of the Empire because they got conquered. Well, if you believe that nations belong to those who can take it, then the Forsworn can retake the Reach. So either way, in both arguments, they deserve it. And speaking of retaking the Reach, there's reason number 5. The Forsworn have already retaken the Reach. You know, when you travel through Markarth Hold, it feels a little different than Skyrim, okay? You don't meet many random encounters. There's not a lot of Thalmor patrols going through here. Hell, even the dragons seem scared of the place. Why? Well, because of these guys. Look, every hold has bandits, but I don't get the same sense of dread of a bandit clan as I do when one of these dual sword-wielding antler-headed freaks comes rushing right at me. Everywhere you go, there are Forsworn territory. They already have the most camps in the hold. They control all the important infrastructure, the mills, the mines. The only thing that's left is the capital. I mean, hell, the people of Markarth admit it too.
There are no Forsworn in this city. They are only a threat in the hills and along the roads where they live. Everywhere else, we are in control.
If everyone in the hold knows that all the land in the hold belongs to the Forsworn, well, maybe the Reach really is for the Forsworn, you know? If they control the roads, the trade posts, the towns, the villages, and the countryside of a country, I mean, it's your country, right? At this point, you'd have to do more work to free Markarth of the Forsworn than you would have to do to free the Forsworn of Markarth. You know what I'm saying? It would literally be like saying if the United States took over Mexico City, but failed to take anything else in Mexico, that Mexico just now is the 51st state. That's not how this works, right? The entire country is full of Mexicans who have a shared cultural identity. They control the taxis, the buses, the trains, the boats, the harbors, and the borders of the country. Just because you take one city doesn't mean you took over the place. In our example, the Reach is more Forsworn than it is anyone else. And all they really need is a king. And there's one right here from reason number 6. Madanach could unite all of the Forsworn. The real problem the Reachmen have is organization. In one clan, they follow their Briarheart. Here, they follow a Hagraven. The ones in the city follow Madanach. Why is it like this? Well, because for the last 25 years, their king has been the king in rags. Madanach has not only been in prison, where he can only be contacted by Nepos Nos, under the supervision of the Silverbloods, but all that time he's been forced to do the bidding of the Silverbloods, to eliminate their rivals and consolidate power.
I had Markarth. My men and I drove the Nords out. We had won. So we thought. Retribution was swift. I was captured, quickly tried, and sentenced to death. But my execution never came. Dhonar's Silverbloods stopped it. He wanted the Forsworn at his call, that I would point their rage at his enemies and spare his allies. And I have. Humiliating at first, but I knew he would let his guard down eventually, that he would come to trust I was under control.
However, as we all know and witness in the game, he has spent his time gathering strength and allies, and at the time of Skyrim, has officially grown too powerful to be contained in Cidhna Mine any longer.
My brothers, we have been here long enough. It's time to leave Cidhna Mine and continue our fight against the Nords. Through this gate, just beside my quarters, is a tunnel. A tunnel that leads right through the old dwarven ruins of Markarth, into the city. Well, what do you say, my brothers?
The Reach belongs to
Forsworn!
With Madanach free, it's only a matter of time before all come to know and pay tribute to their king.
This is where it will begin. A new uprising. We'll have our freedom one day.
And once they have a recognizable ruler to sit the mournful throne, well, I guess they still have to take the city, but considering half the people in there are secret Forsworn agents already, I really don't think it would be that hard. If Thonar Silverblood can't keep his wife from getting capped in his office, there's absolutely no chance of the Nords keeping Madanach from sitting the throne of Markarth. And once we have a central seat of power, all the clans on the road will fall in line, and we'll see the Reach go from a ragtag group of terrorists in the hills fighting their government to a peaceful, cohesive powerhouse with half the money in Skyrim at their disposal and a bunch of powerful mages out in the hills. But as we all know, it really isn't the current Jarl who even rules Markarth. It's reason number 7. The Silverblood family has too many enemies. The real power in Markarth is, of course, the Silverbloods. They own the mines.
This is a jail, owned by the Silverblood family. We use the prisoners to mine for ore.
The silver in the mine.
That they rely heavily on us for our silver and support. All the miners, farmers, and laborers in the Reach get their daily wages through us.
The smelter that the silver goes to.
What? No. Thonar Silverblood owns it. He owns everything in Markarth.
The inn.
This is the Silverblood Inn. I'll let you figure out who owns it by yourself.
The guards.
We had a nice little deal going between Thonar and Madanach until you and Eltrich started snooping around.
The mercenaries that run around forcing people to sell what is left to them.
Forsworn attacked a while back. Jarl had no men to spare, so the Silverbloods generously offered to send us to clean things up. We just want that old native to hand over his land in payment for our services, then we'll leave.
At first you might be tempted to think, well, the Silverbloods could probably just hire an infinite number of mercenaries to fight the Forsworn. And for a while, I'm sure you'd be right. But if the Forsworn they use to work their silver mines are set free, like we see in the Forsworn conspiracy, they will eventually run out of the money required to keep their fake little empire running. The problem the Silverbloods have is once everyone learns that the Forsworn are fighting the Silverbloods instead of working for them, everyone that the Silverbloods have done wrong by will refuse to help them. Let's see who that includes. Who have the Silverbloods wronged in Skyrim? Well, the Empire's spying on them, and they keep killing the Imperial spies. The smelters are kept penniless by them. The prison is full of slaves that were sometimes wrongfully imprisoned by them. All the villages and towns are harassed by them, and the Jarl doesn't trust them. All they have is their corrupt city guards and their mercenaries. So once the Forsworn kills those people, and the silver stops flowing to replace them, there will be no one left who even hates the Forsworn for what they have done compared to how much everybody hates the Silverbloods. Hell, the reachmen would practically be heroes just for getting rid of these people. And everyone would experience prosperity once the Forsworn get rid of the Silverbloods, because reason number 8, the Reach is completely untapped. Markarth is rich because it is full of silver in the ground, but all the other resources you're used to seeing around Skyrim are completely unrealized in Markarth. There's no mills, there's no farms, there's nothing. One thing you might notice when you wander Markarth Hold is between all the Forsworn raiders and corrupt mercenaries around, there isn't really anyone doing anything here. I mean, there is exactly one farm in the entire hold, and it's right outside the city gates for defense purposes. But most of the fertile land that you can find between these mountains remains untilled. It's obvious why, right? The Forsworn raiding makes it impossible to live outside Markarth proper. But if the raiding stopped, the reachmen stopped being raiders and started being a proper kingdom, everyone would be free to use the abundant rivers and rolling hills to make this place a fertile valley it's clearly meant to be. You have the labor force wasting their energy fighting Markarth. You have the land just sitting here doing nothing productive. You have the leaders rotting in prison. You have the trees already grown next to rivers that could become mills. All the ingredients are here, not being used. Why? Well, because the Silverbloods, Nords, and the Empire are all determined to get their silver. As long as the silver keeps flowing, no one really cares if the Reach stays completely untapped. I mean, when you look at Whiterun and the number of farms they support, and then you compare it to the single farm located about 5 feet outside of Markarth, it really makes you wonder what this place could be with some decent management that isn't always fighting against its native population. Give the Reach to the Forsworn and watch it become a feeding basket that can supply all of Skyrim. Not just with silver, but with food as well. Not to mention they could trade that food to their neighbors since reason number 9, the Reach doesn't even need Skyrim or the Empire. Let's say that once they've declared their independence and set up an agricultural powerhouse, what would you expect to happen? Well, let's say they're independent. They would now border 3 different countries, with Skyrim to their east and Hammerfell and High Rock to their west. They could easily let silver and food flow freely to establish good relations with everyone around them. Plus, they could easily open a magic school here too, since it isn't a frozen wasteland, and all the Forsworn seem to be knowledgeable to magic already. They would probably need to import knowledgeable farmers who would help them employ the reachmen already in place. And eventually, the Reach would become the Whiterun of Tamriel, with goods of all origins and destinations flowing right through the middle here, to reach all over Tamriel, right through the Reachmen's cities. I would argue that the Forsworn could probably stay economically viable if they just kept the silver mines open. But if they also opened their economic barriers to all kingdoms around them, well, they could quickly become one of the richest and most powerful independent city-states in all of the Elder Scrolls. And well, that's just about all I have to say about that. 9 reasons the Forsworn deserve to take over the Reach. I mean, really, the sky is the limit for these people if they can get out from under the thumb of the Nords and the Empire. And with the Empire at its weakest, and the Nords arguing about what it means to be a Nord, there's no time like the present.
To help you remain tranquil in the face of almost certain death, smooth jazz will be deployed in 3, 2, 1.
I'll be making a video next week of all the reasons the Forsworn should not be allowed to run the Reach. So, if you don't want to miss it, make sure you write Sistel Ravenrock on the bottom of your foot like you're a toy from Toy Story, and subscribe. It really helps with the channel. And until then, I'll see you around.